This week's US CQM forecast alert is, which is correct economic growth rate in 2022 Q4, GDP or GDI? The final 2022 Q4 GDP was released this week. There is a large gap of economic growth rate between the expenditure and income side. Real GDP was 2.57%, while real GDI was minus 1.1%. The economic growth rate on both the expenditure and income sides has been revised upward. Economic growth is about 1% higher on the expenditure side than on the income side. The average economic growth on both sides is 0.74%. Both headline inflation and the GDP price deflator are below 4%. However, the growth rate of the core PCE price deflator is still over 4%. The PCA has revised down its economic growth rate from 1.87% to 1.13% due to the February money supply. The GDP price deflator growth rate has been revised upwards but has not exceeded 4%. The PCA's downward revision to economic growth comes as the real money supply fell 0.94% in February, well below the ADIMA forecast of minus 0.22%. The average economic growth rate in the long run does not differ much on the expenditure and income sides, but it's pretty different on both sides in each quarter. The absolute gap between the two sides of economic growth rate in each quarter is as high as 3.3%. Even excluding 2020 Q3 and Q4, during the abnormal period of COVID-19, the average absolute gap on both sides is high as 1.7%. Conclusion from this week's CQM forecast alert. First, the economic growth rate in each quarter has an average gap of about 2% on the expenditure and income sides. Second, a better economic growth rate is real GDO, which is the average growth rate on both the expenditure and income side. Third, in order to accurately capture the current economic situation, multiple approaches other than GDP projection on the expenditure side are required. This slide contains additional information about this week's detailed CQM forecast, the original developer of CQM and CQM theory papers.